The night began with a silence that felt heavier than usual. Emily Carter lay on the couch in her living room, the lamp beside her casting a weak, yellow glow across the walls. Outside, rain slid down the windows in slow lines, blurring the quiet street of her small Vermont neighborhood. The house was calm, but her mind was not. It never was at night. Sleep used to come easily to Emily. Now it came only when exhaustion won the fight. She pulled her sweater tighter around herself and stared at the ceiling. Her thoughts moved fast, unfinished conversations, old memories, questions with no answers. Life had not turned out the way she once imagined. She was 38, divorced, and trying every day to be strong for her son. Noah. He was upstairs, or at least she thought he was. 11 years old, too young to understand everything, but old enough to feel the change in the house. Emily worried about that more than anything. She worried about the quiet dinners, the missing laughter, the way sadness sometimes sat beside them like an extra guest. Earlier that evening, she had smiled through dinner. She always did. She asked Noah about school, about his science project, about the book he was reading. She listened carefully and laughed at the right moments. From the outside, she looked fine. Inside, she felt tired in a way sleep could not fix. Emily reached for her phone, then stopped. There was nothing she wanted to read and no one she felt ready to talk to. She placed it on the coffee table and closed her eyes, hoping the dark would slow her thoughts. It didn't. Her mind drifted backward instead, years ago, to a different version of herself. A time when she believed love was simple and forever. A time when her house felt full even when it was quiet. She pushed those memories away. Thinking about the past only made the present feel sharper. The clock ticked past midnight. Emily finally shifted on the couch, her body giving up before her mind did. Her breathing slowed. The lines on her forehead softened. Sleep came quietly, without warning, like a tide pulling her under. Upstairs, Noah stood at the edge of the hallway, listening. He had heard the floor creak earlier and knew his mother had stayed downstairs again. She did that more often lately. Noah didn't like it, but he never said anything. He didn't want to worry her. He crept down a few steps and looked into the living room. His mother was asleep. Her face looked calm now, but even in rest, she seemed worn down. Noah noticed things most adults didn't think children would see. He noticed how often she sighed. How she sometimes stared out the window for no reason. How her smile took effort. Noah leaned against the wall, unsure what to do. He felt something tight in his chest, a mix of concern and love he didn't have words for. He wished he could fix things, even though he didn't know what was broken. The house felt too big in that moment. Too quiet. Emily shifted slightly in her sleep, murmuring something too soft to hear. Noah held his breath, afraid he might wake her. When she didn't stir again, he relaxed. He stayed there for a long moment, watching the rain, listening to the steady rhythm of her breathing. To him, it sounded like the only steady thing left. Noah turned and walked back upstairs, but he didn't go to bed. Instead, he sat on the edge of his mattress, staring at the floor. His thoughts moved in simple lines, not tangled like his mother's, but deep in their own way. He thought about how tired she looked. He thought about how quiet the house had become. He thought about how much he loved her. Downstairs, Emily slept on, unaware that this night was not as ordinary as it seemed. She didn't know that while she rested, something small was already shifting, something gentle, something meaningful. The kind of thing that doesn't make noise when it happens. The kind of thing you only understand later. And when morning came, Emily would wake up thinking it was just another day. She had no idea it was the beginning of something she would remember for the rest of her life. Noah didn't go to bed that night. He sat on the edge of his mattress for a long time, listening to the rain patter against the window. The soft rhythm was almost hypnotic, but his mind raced faster than the clock ticking on the wall. He couldn't stop thinking about his mother. From the top of the stairs, he peeked down. Emily lay on the couch, her face calm but pale in the lamplight. She seemed smaller somehow, swallowed by the shadows of the living room. Noah's chest tightened. He had watched her every day, seen the way she forced herself to smile, the way she tucked her worries behind polite words. But tonight, he felt something he had never felt before, a need to do more than watch. He tiptoed down the stairs, careful not to wake her. The floor creaked under his small feet, and he froze for a second, heart pounding. When she didn't stir, he exhaled and kept moving. He didn't know exactly what he should do, only that he needed to do something. First, he grabbed the blanket from his bed. It was soft, warm, and something he knew would comfort her. He walked over to the couch and draped it over her shoulders, tucking it around her gently. The fabric brushed her hair, and he hoped it would give her the kind of warmth she always gave him but rarely allowed herself. Next, he noticed her phone on the table. Emily often forgot to charge it. Noah picked it up, plugged it in, and set it beside her. Little things, but in his mind, they mattered. Then his eyes fell on the envelope sitting nearby. It was from Daniel, a man Emily used to be close to, whose name he had overheard in conversations long ago. Noah didn't open it, he didn't need to. He simply placed it closer to her, as if moving it near her hand could bring her some small comfort. He paused, unsure what else to do. He wanted to speak, to tell her something, but she was asleep. Instead, he whispered softly, almost to himself, "You're not alone, Mom." The words felt strange coming out of his mouth, but they carried everything he couldn't say during the day. Everything he felt about her, about them, about the quiet house they shared. Noah didn't stay long after that. He returned to his room, sat on the floor for a while, thinking about how fragile his mother seemed when she thought no one was watching. He realized that even though he was just a child, he had the power to do small things that mattered, a blanket, a plug, a kind word. Maybe it was enough to remind her she wasn't entirely alone. Meanwhile, Emily slept deeply, unaware of the small acts of love unfolding around her. Her face softened in rest, the tension in her shoulders fading for the first time that day. Noah thought about all the times he had seen her sit quietly after work, staring out the window at nothing. He thought about the dinners where she smiled politely but never laughed fully. He thought about the stories she read to him, the way she tucked him in at night, always pretending she wasn't exhausted. And now, for the first time, he realized he could give back some of the care she had always given him. He imagined how she might feel when she woke up. Would she notice the blanket? The phone? The envelope? Maybe not. Maybe she would, and maybe she wouldn't. But it didn't matter. He knew he had done something good, something meaningful, even if it was quiet. Time passed slowly, but eventually Noah crawled into his bed. He stared at the ceiling, thinking about the warmth he had tried to give his mother. He didn't know how to explain it fully, even to himself. All he knew was that he wanted her to feel safe, cared for, and remembered in the simplest, gentlest way. Downstairs, Emily continued to sleep peacefully. The rain outside began to fade into a quiet drizzle. The house felt lighter, almost as if it had noticed Noah's careful attention. Small acts can sometimes change everything, he realized, even without words. By the time the first hint of morning light touched the curtains, Noah had fallen asleep too. But the night's work was done. He had watched, he had noticed, and he had acted. And Emily, unaware, had been gently protected by her son's quiet love, the kind of love that leaves an invisible mark, one that will stay with her long after she wakes. That night, Noah proved that even the smallest hands can hold great care, and even the quietest moments can carry the kind of love that heals. Noah didn't go to bed that night. He sat on the edge of his mattress, staring at the dark ceiling. The rain outside tapped against his window, slow and steady, but his mind raced faster than the storm. He thought about his mother, Emily Carter, lying alone downstairs. She had been exhausted lately, and he had seen her struggle every day, forcing smiles, hiding worries, pretending everything was fine. Tonight, he couldn't ignore it anymore. He quietly slipped out of his room and moved toward the staircase. The wooden steps creaked under his small feet, and he froze for a moment, heart pounding. But when Emily didn't stir on the couch, he continued. He didn't know exactly what he should do, only that he had to do something. From the top of the stairs, he watched her. She looked fragile, curled under the dim light of the lamp. Her hair fell across her face, and her breathing, though even, seemed heavy. Noah's chest tightened. He wanted to help, to make her feel better, even if he didn't know how. He decided to start small. He retrieved the blanket from his bed, soft, warm, familiar. He carefully draped it over her shoulders, tucking it gently around her. She didn't move, but he hoped the small warmth would reach her in ways words couldn't. Next, he noticed her phone on the coffee table. Emily always forgot to charge it. Noah plugged it in and placed it where she could reach it easily, a small gesture of care that he thought might matter. Then his eyes landed on an envelope lying nearby. It was from Daniel, a man his mother used to care about deeply. Noah didn't open it, he didn't need to. Instead, he moved it closer to her hand, a quiet way of reminding her that some parts of her life weren't forgotten. For a moment, he paused. He wanted to speak, to say something comforting, but she was asleep. So he whispered, barely audible, "You're not alone, Mom." The words felt strange leaving his mouth, but they held all the concern, love, and understanding he had for her. Even though she was asleep, he wanted her to feel it somehow. Noah stayed for a few minutes, watching her, noticing the small rise and fall of her chest, the calmness in her face. He realized something important: even small actions can carry big meaning. A blanket, a plugged-in phone, an envelope placed near her hand, these weren't grand gestures, but they mattered. They showed love, care, and thoughtfulness in ways words sometimes couldn't. After a while, he quietly returned to his room, sitting on the floor, thinking about the night. He remembered all the times his mother had stayed awake for him, all the nights she comforted him, guided him, and made sure he felt safe. Now, in his small way, he could return some of that care. He didn't need to fix everything, he just needed to be present, to notice, and to act. He pictured her waking up in the morning. Would she notice the blanket? The phone? The envelope? Maybe she would, maybe she wouldn't. But the thought didn't matter. The act itself was enough. It was a way to show that he saw her, that he cared, that he loved her without conditions. Time passed, and Noah finally climbed into bed. He stared at the ceiling, thinking about the quiet house, the soft rain, and the small acts of love that often go unseen. He felt a calmness settle over him, knowing he had done something meaningful, even if it was small. Downstairs, Emily slept peacefully, unaware that her son had moved quietly through the night, caring for her in ways she hadn't realized she needed. The rain outside softened, leaving the house feeling lighter, warmer, and full of a quiet comfort that only comes from love noticed and returned. In that stillness, Noah understood something profound: love doesn't always arrive in big, dramatic gestures. Sometimes, it comes quietly, in the middle of the night, in simple actions, in moments when no one is watching. Those moments can change everything, even when they seem invisible. That night, Emily's heart was protected, her home filled with warmth, and her son had learned the power of small, meaningful acts. And although she would never know exactly what he did while she slept, the impact of his love would stay with her forever, shaping the way she woke up, felt, and lived in the days to come. Noah had shown her something she hadn't realized she needed: that care, attention, and love could exist even in silence. And in the quiet of that night, he became the guardian of her heart, without her ever knowing it, something she would carry unknowingly, always. In the warmth of memory, Emily woke with a start, blinking at the morning light streaming through the curtains. Her body felt heavy, but her mind was alert in a way it hadn't been for weeks. She noticed something immediately: a blanket, soft and warm, tucked around her shoulders. It wasn't hers. For a moment, confusion swept over her, mixed with a sudden rush of warmth. Then her eyes fell on the envelope lying beside her on the coffee table. She picked it up carefully. The name on it made her pause: Daniel. An old friend, someone she hadn't heard from in years, someone who had once meant more than she would ever admit. The letter felt like a small, fragile gift left for her by time itself. Emily's hands trembled slightly as she opened it. The handwriting was familiar, deliberate, thoughtful. She began to read. Daniel's words weren't dramatic or desperate. They were honest. He spoke about missed chances, timing, and how feelings sometimes linger quietly, waiting for the right moment. Every sentence seemed to hold a weight she hadn't realized she still carried. She felt a tear slip down her cheek. The letter reminded her of everything she had missed, the connection, the laughter, the ease of someone understanding her without effort. She hadn't expected to feel this way. The past had seemed closed, sealed in memories and regrets. But Daniel's words reopened a small door, just wide enough for hope to slip through. Noah appeared in the kitchen, rubbing sleep from his eyes, carrying the faint smell of morning rain on his hair. He watched his mother from across the room, unsure whether he should speak. His presence was quiet, gentle, just as he had been the night before. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked softly, noticing the tears on her face. Emily looked at him and felt a swell of emotion she couldn't fully name. She crossed the room and hugged him tightly, holding him longer than usual. "No," she whispered. "You reminded me of something I forgot." Noah tilted his head, curious. "What?" Emily smiled faintly, brushing his hair back. "Love doesn't always leave. Sometimes it waits quietly, hoping for another chance." Noah didn't fully understand, but he didn't need to. He could feel the change in her, the lightness returning to a heart that had been heavy for too long. He nodded, satisfied that he had done something right. The small acts from last night, the blanket, the phone, the envelope, hadn't gone unnoticed. They had mattered more than he could know. Emily sat down at the table with the letter still in her hands. She reread Daniel's words slowly, absorbing every thought, every memory, every feeling he had carefully expressed. The letter wasn't just a reminder of the past, it was a gentle push toward the future, toward forgiveness, toward hope. She felt a warmth spreading through her chest, a feeling she hadn't experienced in years, possibility. Noah moved closer, sitting on the floor beside her chair. He didn't speak, didn't need to. Just being there, witnessing her tears and smiles, was enough. He had played a part in this moment, unknowingly, with the quiet love of a child who noticed when no one else did. Emily realized that her son had protected more than her body with the blanket, he had protected her heart. While she slept, he had acted without being asked, guided by instincts of love and empathy far beyond his years. His small gestures had carried her through a night she didn't know she needed protection, and it left her feeling seen in ways she hadn't felt in a long time. The rain had stopped outside, leaving the streets glistening and fresh. Emily finally put the letter down and looked at Noah. "You're very kind," she said, her voice soft, full of emotion. He shrugged, trying to hide the pride swelling in his chest. "You're my mom," he said simply. Emily smiled, realizing that sometimes love doesn't arrive in grand gestures. Sometimes it comes quietly, through small, meaningful actions and attentive hearts. That quiet love could heal, support, and remind a person that they were not alone, even when life felt heavy. She hugged him again, breathing in the familiarity of his warmth. The morning sun hit the windows, soft and forgiving, and Emily felt a sense of clarity she hadn't known in years. The past still existed, but it no longer weighed her down. There was room now, for understanding, for hope, for new connections, and perhaps even for Daniel. Noah stayed close, sensing that something important had shifted. He didn't fully know what it was, but he felt the satisfaction of having helped, even in the simplest ways. Emily realized that the small, quiet actions of a child, gentle, thoughtful, unnoticed by the world, could leave a mark deeper than anyone imagined. That morning, she understood that love could arrive in unexpected ways, and the memory of it would stay with her forever, shaping the way she moved forward, felt, and hoped.